Merry Christmas, everyone. It's Christmas Eve. Santa Claus comes tonight. Woohoo! It's also the day before Jesus was born. So we got to remember that that's part of what Christmas is all about. That's the main reason we have Christmas. But as you see, it is Christmas, so it's St. Nicholas time. And being Christmas Eve, I left one of my favorite books for Christmas Eve night. And I know that you guys have probably seen the movie and have heard the story many times, but you know, you can't go wrong with the Polar Express. And it is written by, who's the author? Chris Van Allsburg. He's the author, and I believe he might even be the illustrator, but as always, I'm taking the cover off so it doesn't quite get in the way. And look at the cover. It's very beautiful. It's got the Christmas bell. If you haven't heard this story before, you'll find out what the Christmas bell is all about at the end of the story. Let me see if he was the illustrator as well. Yes, he was also the illustrator, and part of why this book is so good is because of the illustrations. And I hope there's not going to be too glare because it's kind of shiny paper. I will try my best to have it so that you can see it. Now, how do I do this so that I can read the words and you can see the beautiful pictures? Let's try it like this. How's this? You can see those pictures. Let's see if I can hold it so there's not quite the glare. Oh my goodness. There, we got to kind of tip it like that. Then you can see it. All right, let's read. On Christmas Eve, many years ago, I lay quietly in my bed. I did not rustle the sheets. I breathed slowly and silently. I was listening for a sound a friend told me I'd never hear: the ringing bells of Santa's sleigh. There is no Santa, my friend had insisted. But I knew he was wrong. Late that night, I did hear sounds, though not of ringing bells. From outside came the sounds of hissing steam and squeaking metal, and I looked through my window and saw a train standing perfectly still in front of my house. Now, he sounds very surprised. Do you think that he has a train track outside his house? I don't know. He sounded kind of surprised, didn't he? Okay, let's see. There's the train. Kind of turn it at an angle here. Ooh, that's really shiny. There we go. All right. He'll probably get the glare, but I apologize for that. It was wrapped in an apron of steam. Snowflakes fell lightly around it. A conductor stood at the open door of one of the cars. He took a large pocket watch from his vest, then looked up at my window. I put on my slippers and robe, and I tiptoed downstairs and out the door. "All aboard!" the conductor cried out. I ran up to him. "Well," he said, "are you coming?" "Where?" I asked. "Why, to the North Pole, of course," was his answer. "This is the Polar Express." I took his outstretched hand, and he pulled me on board. There they are on board. I'm going to have to turn it a little bit so I can read it. The train was filled with other children, all in their pajamas and nightgowns. We sang Christmas carols and ate candies with nougat centers as white as snow. We drank hot cocoa as thick and rich and as melted chocolate bars. Outside, the lights of towns and villages flickered in the distance as the Polar Express raced northward. You can see all the children. Now, sometimes, I don't know, maybe some of you have actually gone on a Polar Express ride, because sometimes, and probably not this year, but other years, they've had Polar Express in this area where you could ride on it. So maybe you guys have experienced it. Let's find out here. Soon there were no more lights to be seen. We traveled through cold, dark forests where lean wolves roamed and white-tailed rabbits hid from our train as it thundered through the quiet wilderness. It looked kind of dark and scary, doesn't it? Except that train looks very warm. What do we got here? Mountains. Beautiful, tall mountains with lots of snow on them. You can see here, there's the Polar Express. Let's see if you can, if I get that higher, so you can see it, the picture better. There it is, see it? On the top of that mountain there? There we go. There you can see it. We climbed mountains so high, it seemed as if we would scrape the moon. But the Polar Express never slowed down. Faster and faster we ran along, rolling over peaks and through valleys like a car on a roller coaster. That'd be kind of fun. Now where do you suppose they are? There we go. Get rid of the shine there. The mountains turned into hills, and the hills to snow-covered plains. We crossed a barren desert of ice, the great polar ice cap. Lights appeared in the distance. They looked like the lights of a strange ocean liner sailing on a frozen sea. "There," said the conductor. "There is the North Pole." Tip it so you can see it a little bit better. There we go. There's the town of the North Pole. The North Pole. It was a huge city standing alone at the top of the world, filled with factories where every Christmas toy was made. At first, we saw no elves. "They are gathering at the center of the city," the conductor told us. "That is where Santa will give the first gift of Christmas." "Who receives the first gift?" we all asked. The conductor answered, "He will choose one of you." So one of the children that's on that train will get the first gift of Christmas. I don't know how well you can see this with the light glaring on it. But down there, all these red dots, those are the elves in the town square. They're all waiting. Lots and lots of elves, isn't it? "Look!" shouted one of the children. "The elves!" Outside, we saw hundreds of elves. As our train drew closer to the center of the North Pole, we slowed to a crawl. So crowded were the streets with Santa's helpers. When the Polar Express could go no farther, we stopped and the conductor led us outside. Oh, there we go. There's Santa with all the elves in front of him. There's his big There's the big sack of toys in the back of his sleigh. Must be getting close to time. We pressed through the crowd to the edge of a large open circle. In front of us stood Santa's sleigh. The reindeer were exited. They pranced and paced and ringing the silver sleigh bells that hung from their harnesses. It was a magical sound like nothing I'd ever heard. Across the circle, the elves moved apart and Santa Claus appeared, and the elves cheered wildly. He marched over to us and pointed to me, saying, "Let's have this fellow here. Ho, ho, ho." He jumped into his sleigh. The conductor handed me up, and I sat on Santa's knee, and he asked, "Ho, ho, now what would you like for Christmas?" That's pretty cool to be the one chosen, huh? Okay, there you see him. He's there with Santa and the reindeer. Let's see what happens. I knew that I could have any gift I could imagine, but the thing I wanted most was for Christmas was not inside Santa's giant bag. What I wanted more than anything was one silver bell from Santa's sleigh. When I asked, Santa smiled. Then he gave me a hug and told an elf to cut a bell from the reindeer's harness. The elf tossed it up to Santa, and he stood holding the bell high above him and called out, "Oh, oh, the first gift of Christmas!" There goes Santa, off with his reindeer in his sleigh. A clock struck midnight as the elves roared their approval. Santa handed the bell to me, and I put it in my bathrobe pocket. The conductor helped me down from the sleigh. Santa shouted at the reindeers' names and cracked his whip. The team charged forward and climbed into the air. Santa circled once above us, then disappeared in the cold, dark polar sky. There he goes. Uh-oh. Look at the boy in the story. He looks a little sad, doesn't he? And looks like some of the other children are trying to comfort him. I wonder why. Do you know? Let's find out. As soon as we were back inside the Polar Express, the other children asked to see the bell. I reached into my pocket, but the only thing I felt was a hole. Uh-oh. I had lost the silver bell from Santa's sleigh. "Let's hurry outside and look for it," one of the children said. But the train gave a sudden lurch and started moving. We were on our way home. Oh no. How do you suppose he feels? Okay, and let's see, the train's letting him off. He's saying goodbye. It broke my heart to lose the bell. When the train reached my house, I sadly left the other children. I stood at my doorway and waved goodbye. The conductor said something from the moving train, but I couldn't hear him. "What?" I yelled out. He cupped his hands around his mouth. "Merry Christmas!" he shouted. The Polar Express let out a loud blast from its whistle, and sped away. What do you think is going to happen? If you haven't seen the story, what do you think is going to happen? If you haven't heard it, it's a little different than the movie, isn't it? There they are. Christmas morning, opening presents. He's got something right there in that box in front of him. I wonder what that could be. On Christmas morning, my little sister Sarah and I opened our presents. When it looked as if not everything had been unwrapped, Sarah found one last small box behind the tree. It had my name on it. Inside was the silver bell. There was a note. Found this on the seat of my sleigh. Fix that hole in your pocket. Signed, Mr. C. I shook the bell, and it made the most beautiful sound my sister and I had ever heard. But my mother said, "Oh, that's too bad." "Yes," said Father, "it's broken." When I'd shaken the bell, my parents had not heard a sound. There's the bell. At one time, most of my friends could hear the bell, but as years passed, it fell silent for all of them. Even Sarah found one Christmas that she could no longer hear its sweet sound. Though I've grown old, the bell still rings for me, as it does for all who truly believe. Well, I never received a bell from Santa. I was never the first gift. I never got to ride on the Polar Express. But I do believe that I'm very fortunate that I can hear bells. The only bells I happen to have, don't know if you can hear them. The only bells I happen to have are on my reindeer ears. My reindeer antlers. I'm glad, though, that I can hear those bells. Can you? Let me get close to the microphone so you make sure you hear them. Can you hear them? I'm sure you can. So, with that, my friends, I wish you a very, very Merry Christmas. Not sure when I'll be reading again, but you can always catch me and catch some of my stories on my YouTube channel. Just look for my name. And I don't think it's under Grandma Sue, though. I think it's under Susan Fronick. Anyway, look for me. Look for my stories. Maybe I'll post some from time to time, some new ones. But as we go into 2021, I wish you all the best, a safe, healthy Christmas, New Year, and I pray that we all get back to normal before long. Get your flu, we all get our COVID vaccines, and we all get better and knock this horrible virus out of the world. So my friends, I wish you all a very merry, blessed Christmas and a wonderful, happy New Year 2021. Bye-bye.